Hey friends, welcome or welcome back. My name is Sarah. Today I am sharing with you my August reading wrap up. I had a really good reading month numbers wise. Quality wise?
Could you try again?
She's awfully nosy, huh?
I'm not sure I understand.
Stop. Okay, apparently she stopped. So numbers wise, I had a good reading month and I just got something in my eye. It could be this crazy hair that I'm rocking today. So numbers wise, it was good. Quality wise, I didn't love just everything that I read. So that was a little bit of a bummer. I do have my laptop right here in front of me. Just to give you my numbers, I wanted to give you an update on where I am numbers wise for the year. And I did not pull that up before I started this video. Why, you might ask? I don't really know. I didn't think about it. But I had the computer here anyway, so I knew I wanted to do it. Okay, so... That was super annoying. It wasn't accepting my password. Okay, so I have my computer here and I just want to share with you real quick. August, like I said, was a great numbers-wise reading month for me. We'll go into everything that I read and why I loved it or didn't love it so much. But I will post my Goodreads link down below in case you want to be my friend. I would love that. I love to see what everybody else is reading, and I also obviously love to share what I'm reading. I have well surpassed my my reading challenge goals on Goodreads for the year. I wasn't totally sure how much I was going to get to read this year because I thought I was going to start grad school and I'm actually delaying that a little bit. So I have read a lot more than I thought I was going to. So I had put my goal for Goodreads at 75 books for the year. As of the end of August, I've read 90 books this year. So many of those are audiobooks, and you will see that is reflected in my numbers as well. I also get book of the month, and so I'm trying to, go through my back catalog of book of the month that I have not quite read yet. But numbers wise, August, I read 16 books. Three of those were really short books. I am reading my way through these little kind of novellas almost, I guess you would call them. Let's get to that in a minute. I read 16 books. Of that, it was 2,406 pages, and then it was 76 hours of audiobooks that I listened to. So 2,406 pages for the month. You'll see why in just a minute. And then 76 hours of audiobook reading. So now, because I did so much in audiobook form, I don't have that much to share with you in actual book form. I read 2 physical books this month, and then I read a little bit on my Kindle, and the majority of it was all audiobooks. So I've also got my Goodreads up here on my phone, and if I haven't shown you this phone case yet, do you love it? It's actually kind of falling apart, so I'm gonna need to get a new one soon, but I love it. So I've got my Goodreads up on my phone, and I'm gonna go through everything that that I read with you. So let's go ahead and start that now. Okay, so I just realized that the first book that I read and the last book that I read for the month are the only 2 physical books that I have to show you. Everything else was either audio or on my Kindle, so I'll try to remember to put the book covers up right here so you can see them. The first book that I read for the month was The Personal Librarian, and I really, really enjoyed this book. This is our protagonist. Her name is Belle DaCosta Green. We find out very early on that that is not her true name. Her name is Belle Marion Greener, and she is a white passing black woman in the 20s. I could be making that up, but I feel like it's in the 20s or the 30s. She becomes JP Morgan's personal librarian, hence the title, The Personal Librarian. And because she is white passing, she climbs very quickly through society and becomes a very important figure. And this is I guess a fictionalized story, kind of a historical fiction, I guess you would call it, a fictionalized not autobiography, duh, oh my god, my words, a fictionalized biography of her life and her experience as JP Morgan's personal librarian. This was a really, really lovely story. I found that I really did like it. It does get not heavily political, but it gets into a lot of the thoughts and ideals of society at the time. And so sometimes it's just absolutely nerve-wracking, just, the way that she has to rationalize decisions that she makes in her life, and the way that she is treated in her life. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I'm going to try to remember to put my star ratings on the bottom here, just in case I don't remember to mention them. The next book that I read, this was actually an audiobook, and it was Hidden Figures, and it's by Margot Lee Shetterly. This one was a struggle for me. So this one, as I said, it was an audiobook that I listened to, and I loved the movie of Hidden Figures. The book was not the same as the movie. It followed some of the same characters, but the personal storylines were much more deeply told, and I feel like better portrayed in the movie. I'm a true book person to my core. Very seldom will you hear me say that the movie was better than the book. However, the book Hidden Figures, it read, to my ears anyway, it sounded like someone was giving a book report. It just sounded like someone had done a research project on the female engineers at NASA and was giving a very factual retelling of this person was hired on this day. She worked for 22 years. She had 3 promotions along the way. This is where she ended up, and she was, thanked at the end for her service. And it was story after story after story of the women. It was a positive message, but it was told in a very dry way, and unfortunately I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I really, really wanted to love it. I loved the movie. I think it is such an incredible message and something that we need to hear. We need to hear stories of hope and stories of triumph and, things like this. And I guess coming off of The Personal Librarian, where it was such a personal tale and all of the emotions of Belle and her rationales and how she fought through to, and then just to get straight to the cut and dry of Hidden Figures, it just was a little bit of a letdown. So I did give this one 3 stars. I feel like it's an important story that needs to be told. But if you want to hear the story of the women of NASA, watch the movie on this one. The third book that I read in August was The Queen's Secret, and I actually read that on my Kindle. I'll try to remember to link the cover to my Kindle down below. I get a lot of questions on Instagram on that. I think it was like $6.99, $7.99, something like that. This is just my Kindle Paperwhite that I bought myself for my birthday last year, and my birthday's coming up in a couple weeks, so, you know, probably gonna treat myself again. But I read The Queen's Secret. The Queen's Secret is a duology, and I read The Queen's Assassin, which is the first one. Read that in July. In that one, we follow Shadow and Colt, who Colt is the Queen's assassin, and he is trying to uncover this plot for these people that are working against the kingdom, and Shadow pretends that she is sent to help him, to be his apprentice. And at the end of that book, we find out that her name is not Shadow, she is actually the princess, and that she does not want to enter the court. She actually wants to just be a regular member of society, but she also wants to be an assassin. And so we find out that her name is Princess Lilac. And so in the second book, which is the one that I read this month, it is called The Queen's Secret, and we follow Princess Lilac, who then has now become Queen Lilac, and this kind of tumultuous, complicated relationship that she has with Colt, and she is being framed for these crimes and these magical basically magical crimes that are being committed against the people, and she's being framed for it because the kingdom, there's a band of people who are trying to turn the kingdom against her. So we follow all of that. And I really enjoyed the first one, The Queen's Assassin. That was a little bit more adventure to it, a little bit more, there was a little bit more tension in it between Shadow and Colt. I really enjoyed that. In the second one, it was okay. The one that I read this month, it was all right. I didn't get that deep sense of adventure like I did. It was a little bit darker, a little bit more sinister, but it is only a duology, so we kind of had to cut to the chase in this one, and have the big. What am I trying to say here? We had to have the big problem, I guess, and then immediately have the denouement, immediately have the resolution. So this was okay. I think I gave it about 3.5 stars for The Queen's Secret. Okay, the next book that I listened to on audio was Meet Me in the Margins, and this was by Melissa Ferguson. I don't think I've ever read or listened to anything by Melissa Ferguson before. This book was so charming. Think Book Lovers, but like just stepped up just a little bit. It was so charming and so endearing. The problem that I had with Book Lovers, and I know I'm gonna make a lot of Emily Henry stans really angry. I enjoyed Book Lovers, but here's what I didn't love. Our main protagonist, was her name Nora? Am I thinking of the right book? I did not love her. She was fine, but I don't know. She kind of had this chip on her shoulder the whole time, and I didn't really understand that. Whereas in Meet Me in the Margins, we are following Savannah, and what is his name? Crap. I don't know. Anyways, I'll put his name down here. Whatever. It's the son of the publisher. So we're following Savannah. She wants to be a writer. She wants to be an author, but she is in publishing. She works for a publishing company, and she has to keep her writing a secret because she's writing the next great romance. And the publishing company that she works for only does nonfiction. They publish for very serious works, and the editor-in-chief thinks that romance is a lesser genre. And so she has written this great novel, this great romance, and she sends it into a rival publishing company and then gets it back with all these notes that say, this is too cliche, this is predictable, this has been done a million times before. And she leaves her manuscript somewhere and someone else starts helping her to edit. And she gets really angry until she finds that the person who has made all these notes on her manuscript is making notes that coincide with the feedback that she has gotten from the other publishing company. So she begs this mystery editor to help her edit her manuscript and to help her rewrite it. And she comes to find that she is building this person up in her mind, and the whole time that she is falling for her mystery editor, she is beginning a real life relationship with the son of her editor-in-chief, and I can't remember what his name is, but so she is having this internal struggle between the person that she knows in real life, that she feels like she's building a relationship with and building a friendship with, and this mystery person that she also feels a strong pull toward. So, fill in the blanks, but it was just a really good, feel-good read. It was all of the heart and soul that I didn't get in Book Lovers, and it was just, it wasn't the, it didn't have all of the spicy scenes that Emily Henry is kind of known for, think like Beach Read and, even kind of to a lesser degree, People We Meet. It didn't have all of those spicy scenes. It was just a sweet, charming, good read. And I think I gave it like 3.5 or 4 stars. So really enjoyed that one. Unfortunately, the very next audiobook that I listened to was called Text Me on Tuesday, I think it was called. Let me see. Okay, so this is like the second longest title in history, right? It's called Text Me on Tuesday, All is Fair and Love in Texting, an accidentally in love story. And this is number 1 of a series which I will not be continuing. In this, I'm just going to call it Text Me on Tuesday. In this book, we follow a caterer. Her name is Amy, and she is, kind of down and out. She's a struggling caterer. She's tried to have this catering company in New York City, and she gets this job at it's not a publishing firm. What is it? It's an architectural firm. And she has a run-in with the owner of the firm, and he's British and just a total ass. He is arrogant and he's cold to her, and she just doesn't understand why he's such a jerk. And so she begins communicating with who she thinks is the firm's assistant. I think his name is Byron. Is Byron the name of the guy, or is Byron? Yeah, Byron is the name of the assistant. And so she thinks she's texting with Byron, who is the gay assistant, and that plays in very heavily. And it ends up that she's actually texting with the owner of the firm. I think his name is Knowles or Nolan. And so he is pretending to be his gay assistant because he's trying to talk himself up, and he keeps trying to, get her to make a move on him. And it just read as very creepy to me. I did not enjoy this. From the opening scene with them, he talked about her supple curves and how he couldn't wait to get his hands back on her ass. ass and her hips. And immediately every time he talks about her and how great she is, and I'm sure she's got a great personality, because if her personality is anything like her ass, every single reference and every single thought that crosses his mind is about her body or about her hips or her curves or her whatever. And it's foul language for the sake of foul language, I feel. Now listen, I love a good F word, okay? I am not a prude by any stretch of the imagination. However, when I was in creative writing back in high school, which was so long ago, I remember my instructor saying, look, I don't care, if you put it in there for the shock value or whatever, or if you put it in, it has to add to the scene. Whatever words you use have to be intentional, and they have to add to the manuscript and not draw away from it. And that's exactly how I felt with his descriptors, with his foul language, with just all of it. I did not like the Nolan character at all. And it was really slimy the way that he was talking about her, the way that he was setting himself up. And I just didn't care for this at all. Not to mention, it was quite possibly the worst British accent. It was like this, and it was very stilted and very over dramatized, and I really didn't like it at all. Come on, y'all. I just didn't like it. 2 out of 5. Would not recommend. Will not be continuing that series. The next book that I read, I forgot, I did have another physical book that I read this month, but it was actually one that I took out from the library. It was called Joy for Beginners, and it was, the author is Erica Bauermeister, and I don't have that to show you because I took it out from the library. And our library, I live in a small town here in North Texas. There's a ton of small towns around me, but they have started back again their in-person book club. And so this was the pick for August. I decided to go ahead and pick it up. We follow, at the beginning, we open with a story about Kate, and we hear from Kate's perspective how she has just gotten a clean bill of health after a year of fighting cancer. Sorry, there's like 2 little hairs that keep coming into my eye and my mouth. So we open on Kate, and she has just gotten a clean bill of health from a year of fighting cancer. And so her daughter, who is now an adult, she has challenged her. She said, I want to go on this whitewater rafting trip with you in, I think it's like the Colorado Rockies or the Grand Canyon or something to that effect. And her girlfriends, which I thought this was just an amazing story of like female friendships and how women, everybody's got their different stuff, right? And their different baggage and their different trials and whatever that they're going through. But this was just a beautiful story about how no matter what those are, in different points in each of their lives, they've all come together for one another and really banded around the woman who needed them at that time. And it's, women from, some of them are sisters, some of them are friends from college, some of them just happened to move in across the street, and it's how they all came together and built this friendship. And so Kate is telling these women that her daughter has challenged her to go on this trip. And so she gives each of them in turn their own challenge. And we find that it's something that's deeply personal to them and something that they think sounds like a simple task, but it's a huge thing for that individual woman to overcome. I really, really enjoyed this story. I've never read anything by Erica Bauermeister before, but she does have a couple of other books out that I probably will be checking out. I really did enjoy this. It is a story about struggle, and it's a story about triumph, and it's a story about just beautiful female friendship. And I thought that was really, really lovely. I gave this one 4 stars. Next, I listened to the audiobook for This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub. And I think it's Straub or Straub, I'm not sure. In this book, we follow Alice, who is on the eve of her 40th birthday, and 40 years have come and gone, and they have not been like she expected. So she wakes up the morning after and finds that she has gone back to her 16-year-old self. And she keeps reliving this day over and over and over again. It's a little bit like Groundhog Day, I guess, but she gets to do things that she thought she wanted, and she gets to relive her life. She gets to make decisions at 16 years old, but with 40 years of knowledge, and see how that would affect her life, if she had done things differently back when she was 16. This was a little bit, it was a little bit hard to listen to. It was a little bit dystopian almost, and it was a little bit of a bummer. It was really interesting. I did find overall that, by the end of the story, it felt like that was the resolution that we needed to have. But it was a little bit of a challenging listen for me. I did give it 3.5 stars. I think it was an important one to listen to, but again, another one that wasn't necessarily just a joy to listen to, but an important story to remember. Okay, we're gonna have to step it up a little bit here because I already ran out of memory on my memory card, so I had to download it all on my computer so I could start again. So that means I'm talking way too much. Let's go into something that I posted on my Instagram at the end of July. There was a reel that the audio for it was like, what's something that you haven't started yet because you're intimidated? It's like really big on Book Talk or BookTube or wherever, Bookstagram. This was mine. It is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I was so ridiculously intimidated. And I actually ended up doing, so I want to talk about these two together. I read in physical form, which again, I forgot I had another physical book to show you, but I read in physical form A Court of Thorns and Roses. And then on my Kindle, I read, what's the second one? Mist and Fury? Court of Mist and Fury, yeah, is the second one. So I read that one on my Kindle. Here's what I will say about these books so far. I'm on the wait list for the Kindle or for the ebook from my library for the third one. So I've only gotten as far as 1 and 2 so far. But here's what I like about them. They're very accessible. She, for the most part, I mean, yes, she's made up this world and she's made up, these creatures and whatever. But for the most part, the characters are accessible and the writing is accessible. They don't speak in Old English, or they don't speak in like these weird made up languages, or, I thought it was really funny right from the beginning, like she calls one of them a prick, and then, they say later on like something, cover your ears, children, but like it says something about his cock, and I was like, oh, okay, that's that's what we're doing here. So it was very, as much as it is fantasy and as much as it is other realm and made up worlds and things, it is still accessible in the actual writing. That is the type of fantasy that I enjoy. Fantasy as just an overall genre intimidates me because, I don't know why I keep holding up this book. I guess I can put it down now. But fantasy as a genre overall is intimidating to me because so much of the time I don't have the brain power to try to work through, it's hard enough for me to follow a huge cast of characters without also having to figure out like, okay, is this person this type of supernatural, or are they this type of supernatural, or are they whatever, in this world, it seems that you are either human or you're fae. And then there are gods as well. But like, that's accessible to me. I can understand that. So, I did like this one, Court of Thorns and Roses. I did feel like the story picked up a little bit more in the second one, Mist and Fury. And I tell you, I don't totally love, this is another one where I'm not fully loving our protagonist. She's very cocky. She, as a 19-year-old human, she thought that she was gonna, save the entire everyone, the Fae race and the human race, and she was just gonna do all of that on her own, illiterate and no education and no, I don't know, a little bit arrogant to me, but the supporting characters, I really am liking them. I feel like toward the end of the second book, she's kind of starting to figure out, like, I think anyways, a little bit what her place is and what her role is, and that maybe she can't just do everything on her own, like maybe she needs these actual supernatural higher beings to help her save the world, kind of a thing. I did overall enjoy them both. I think I enjoyed the second one a little bit more than I liked the first one. And so, like I said, I've got number 3 on hold at the library. I'm just waiting for the ebook to come through. That should be hopefully any day now. And I look forward to, sharing my thoughts on that one as well. The next one, okay, now I got my battery light. Like, my memory card ran out, now my battery's running out. I'm just talking too much, y'all. Okay. The next audiobook that I listened to is called A Spool of Blue Thread. Did not love this one. You basically follow a family, and it's one of these just family, I guess you would call it like literary fiction. Nothing really happens in the family. It just kind of covers like a period of time in this family's lives. It's to me, it was very reminiscent of a book that I read back in June called Marrying the Ketchups, where nothing happens. It just follows different members of the family from their perspectives, but like nothing really happens. It just is a chunk of time, and it tells you what happened in this family. So I didn't love it. Because it was an audiobook, I felt myself like my attention was drawn away quite a bit. 2 stars. I've heard, what I read on Goodreads is basically that's pretty typical of this author. The author is Ann Tyler, so I'm probably not going to seek out anything by her again. I just wasn't entertained. I don't have that much time. The time that I do spend reading, I want to either learn something or I want to be entertained. And I didn't feel like either one of those was accomplished in this book. So there you go, 2 stars. Next, I listened to, this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier when I said that I'm listening to a bunch of novellas. To me, they're like novellas because I am listening to the Nancy Drew Diaries series. These are, all of the books are anywhere from like 100 to 200 pages. So to me, they kind of classify as novellas. They're middle grade, and each of the audiobooks is about 2.5 to 3 hours. So I thought I had listened to 3 of them this month, but I actually listened to 4. We had The Secret at Mystic Lake, which was Nancy Drew Diaries number 6. We had The Phantom of Nantucket, which was number 7. Then we had The Magician's Secret, which was number 8. And then finally The Clue at Black Creek Farm, which was number 9. Of those, probably my favorite one was The Phantom of Nantucket. They're getting a little bit dark now. Before they were just very light, and you know, it was like you could tell who done it right off the bat. They're getting a little bit dark. You know, Nancy's getting a little bit older now, and so they're getting a little bit, you know, they're getting a little bit more complex. So overall, I mean, I know middle grade, I'm not necessarily the demographic that they're looking for middle grade, but sorry y'all, I feel like every time I sit down to film a video, we have the train, which is like a quarter of a mile away from our house. Trains coming through. But anyway, I know I'm not the target demographic, but they are enjoyable, and it's something easy that I can listen to, you know, while I'm working. And so I pretty much give them all either 3 or 3.5 stars. The last physical book that I read this month was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I wanted to love this so much. I heard nothing but hype about this book. It was supposed to be like the next great thing, and we follow 2 gamers. It's Sam and Sadie, and they met when they were kids playing, basically they bonded over video games. Sadie is very affluent. Sam is very not affluent. He is basically a poor orphan kid. And they, like I said, they become friends over video games. They lose touch in high school, and then they meet again right before their junior year of college. And let me tell you why I didn't like this. Because right away, I could see the trajectory that Sadie's storyline was going to take, and I didn't want it to happen, and I kept willing it not to happen, and then it happened. As soon as they introduced her, so Sam goes to Harvard and Sadie goes to MIT, and they talk about how she's in the gaming program at MIT, and the male professor compliments her work. And I thought, okay, she's gonna have an affair with this guy, he's gonna dump her, she's gonna end up pregnant. And well, la-di-da, what do you think happened? I was frustrated because, first of all, I am not naive to the fact that that is what happens in colleges all the time. All the time. I am not naive to that fact. However, this book could have taken such a different route. I hated that was immediately the road that we were going down. I felt like Sadie could have been given such a different storyline, and I hate that she was pigeonholed like that, like so many women are, and that's incredibly frustrating to me. I mentioned earlier in this video going back for my grad degree, and I have spent a lot of time on college campuses and with young women in academics and academia, and I deal, in my client base, I deal with those people every day. And, one of my goals is to go back and teach at the college level. And so I am fully aware that situations like this happen, but I was immediately turned off because we were given that storyline and that angle for Sadie. And I just felt like this book could have had so much more promise and been such a different book had we not immediately gone down that road and given her that storyline. So 3 stars. It's kind of it's not really an uplifting story. Like I said, it's about Sam and Sadie. They end up building a video game that goes wildly popular. It goes into very technical detail about video games and programming, which is, I don't like video games at all. It's not of my interest. it was far more technical, and that was really a lot of the critique that I saw as I was reading through the reviews. I try not to read reviews until after I've read, because I don't want, you know, my opinion to be jaded by what somebody else thought. So as I was going back through, and I thought, I cannot be the only one that did not love this book. And a lot of the critique that I saw was that it was far more technical and far less about, you know, actual gaming and the actual storyline. Not to mention the games that they wrote sounded really boring. Like, even if I was a gamer, would not have held my interest at all. So, wasn't for me. I know a lot of people loved it, but just was not my thing. I thought that was the last book that I read, but I forgot. That was the last physical book that I read, but I actually forgot that the last couple of days of the month, I did listen to another audiobook. And this one was Tempests and Slaughter by, I think it's Tamara Pierce or Tamara Pierce. And it's the Newmare Chronicles #1. I don't know if I'm going to continue on with this series. It seemed like a YA fantasy. It was okay. It was a very complicated magic system. I love a very, like, you know, Hogwarts-esque, you know, magic takes place in a school. Like, you put that kind of stuff together and I will just eat it up. This one seemed very complicated. It seemed very political. And it was an interesting story, but it was another one where it just seemed like there were long stretches of the book where not a lot happened. And then, like, everything happened all right at the end of the book. So I don't know if I'm going to continue on with this one. I don't know how many are in this series. I just realized after I started listening to the audiobook that it did say #1 of the Chronicles. And so, you know, I guess maybe if it's available on Libby, I'll probably, you know, maybe continue listening, but it's not one that I'm definitely putting, you know, on my TBR or my to be listened to list. It was fine. I would say, you know, probably a solid 3.5 stars. Okay guys, so that is everything that I read and listened to in the month of August. Like I said, it was 16 books. So numbers wise, my biggest month year to date. And I listened to a ton. I really am loving listening to audiobooks. I do listen on 1.5 speed. So that is something that helps me get through a ton of books every single month. And I listen a lot while I am at work. So those are a couple of things that help me to really get through books very quickly. And so that's where I'm at. I'm super excited that I've already surpassed my goal for the year. Now I'm pretty much just reading for pleasure. You know, I've got a real life book club that I do every single month. So those are the books that I want to keep on hitting. I want to get through a lot of my book of the month back catalog that I've ordered. I do have, I was doing a reading vlog for this one, Court of Thorns and Roses. And I felt like I was stopping every 15 pages and giving my commentary. So I don't know if I don't know if that vlog will ever see the light of day or not, because if it does, it will be really long. But I do want to do some more reading vlogs, and I want to get into more fantasy. Romance traditionally has been kind of my go-to, but I am getting more into fantasy, as you can see from my from what I read this month. I'm getting more into fantasy, and I'm even starting to get into more of like the thrillers, and I like the psychological thrillers. I don't love the guts and gore kind of thrillers. So leave me a comment down below and let me know what you would recommend that I read next. And thanks so much for watching. Like I said, I'll drop my Goodreads down below, so if you want to be friends, I would love that. I'm also going to drop my Instagram below as well, because I'm far more active on that. It's just easier for me to post a reel or post a picture every now and then, rather than the very rare time that I get to sit down in a quiet house and film a full video. So Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you're reading or what you're planning to read. I'm also participating in Becca's Bookopoly-thon this month, so really, really excited to share with you everything that I've read at the end of the month for that. I will try to remember to drop the link to my intro video for the Bookopoly-thon, so you can check that out after this video if you'd like. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you really soon. Bye.